Hey guys, I'm Khadroth, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Koyan system and some of the issues with it. But the main goal isn't that. It's not to knock the Koyan system. It's to show you something I've been working on for weeks, even before Koyan of the Dark came out. This is something I've been rolling around in my head a long time because I have wanted to try to find ways to make my waifu work especially well in this system. And as to who that is, well, you guys should know by now, I love all the saber faces. And of them, my particular favorite is obviously Lartoria, and she functions a little bit weird in the Koyan system. But she's not the only one. And that's why I want to highlight something for you guys here. So let's jump right in. So this is going to be a typical comp for you guys in our Koyan system. You're going to be utilizing one Koyan support, your own Koyan and then an Oberon. Why? Because we get a shit ton of charge out of that. We get the cooldown reductions to allow people to repeat their skills, and it works really good and is really powerful. Then you're still going to have your damage dealer that's handling most of the waves for you, though there are other applications where maybe you can make a Koyan do some damage or an Oberon do some damage, maybe taking out one of the waves to help them. But again, this is sort of going to be your typical 3-turn quote-unquote looper setup. And again, I know it's not really looping, we're just buster looping. We're forcing it to happen because buster comps don't care about refund. That is one of the best parts about them, is they are node agnostic. They don't care what type of enemies are in the node. As long as they have enough damage to kill, they can assure the charge due to the way the support setup works. So what's the issue, you say, Cad? That's how it's supposed to work. You're right, but the only issue that exists is the difference between, say, Maonobu here, a 30% charger now, and a 50% charger. This is something I've talked about a lot on stream, and I think the reason I have a little bit of an issue with this is I've started to notice some problems for Koyan and Oberon and how they function. So I want to walk through with you guys real quick here the comp for Maonobu and how it would work. So just to show you guys, let's go ahead and go on in. All right, so here we are in a typical Ember Gathering node. It's actually the random day, so I'm just gonna get whatever in here. But just for a proof of concept, let's show you, right? So in our typical Koyan system, we want to pop all of our skills before we ever use anything on the Koyan in relation to their charge skills, because that's what reduces the cooldowns and allows you to get them back. Now, there is some strategy as to which skills you want to do that for, but at least with Maonobu, it does not matter. I can just go ahead and pop everything here. And you guys can see it's really fast now on JP due to the skill animation updates. But I wanted to show you. So my Maonobu had her append unlocked. She started with a 50% CE. She had an additional 20% from me maxing the append. And then now we used her third skill, which is a 30% skill. And already we are at full, and I haven't even used any of the charge skills. So now here we are again in wave 2, and you can see I have no refund because we're buster, but essentially I have everything that I need in order to get Maonobu up to full by using the charge skills from the Koyan. And look, my skills have come back. Now obviously I don't want to use the charge skill here yet, but certainly this first skill that gives her attack up is good. And you'll see there is a point to all of this. Now, just to show you a little bit of damage here, you can see how much damage I did there at the end of wave 2. Maonobu is insane. I do like showing that off, as she is a very good unit for us going forward. But again, now we end up here in wave 3. We still have the charge skill unlocked, so we go ahead and do it. And then now what do? Well, this is fine. I don't even have to really use Koyan second skills here, but you can use that for Star Bomb. It's what makes her really nice, and still the additional trait damage as well. So, but I've rotated now for Oberon, and I go ahead and use his charge skills right there, his 20% and his 50%, and then his third skill, which again is just ridiculous in terms of its damage output. And then boom, here it goes. And if I really wanted to, I could NP here, but I don't even need to. In fact, let's just card this sucker out because you can see just the stupid card damage here from Maonobu. But again, a lot of this is a factor of how strong the Koyan system is. So again, where's the problem? Well, the 30%er here did this node perfectly fine with a 50% CE. I had to have the append unlocked and it worked. But the problem that we have here going forward is that a 50%er works the exact same way, and that causes us some issues. So here is the same comp again, and looking at it, you guys can see I've now replaced with my robust Lartoria, who's not quite finished yet since I don't have coins. Fantastic. But the issue at play is that we run into a scenario where every 50% charger in the Koyan Sky system wastes charge. And what do I mean by that? So they don't have to, but if you're trying to do it this typical way with the damage dealer, again, handling all 3 waves themselves, the setup is you need a 50% CE on to start with them, which is the same as a 30%er. So the natural problem that we have is, from a design philosophy, over time, Delightworks, aka Rasenguru, has started to make it where our 30% chargers, since they don't have as much charge as a 50%er, do a bit more damage. And our 50%ers, since they have more charge than the 30%ers, do a little bit less damage than their counterpart. And the reason for that is because typically over time, charge is able to be turned into damage by allowing it to access better craft essences to start with. So you start thinking historically, and a 30% would have had a hard time ever starting with something like a 50% CE. And it's only made possible by Koyanskaya allowing cooldowns to be reduced. But the weird setup that we have now is that not only does she allow that for them, but she actually causes a little bit of waste on a 50%er. And that has to do with the fact that both her and Oberon have what I call block 50 charge. So all of them have a 50% charge skill. And you might be thinking, well, Cad, that works out perfectly, right? Yeah, there's a couple of issues. One is that Oberon himself has a 20% as well in addition to that. And the other is that your 50% charger also has a 20% on top of their 50%. And it comes in the form of their pin skill. But this 20% and this 20% are largely wasted in a system where all we're doing is using 50% skills. We don't have a way to leverage these for more damage. Specifically speaking, we don't have a way to get us to a better craft essence than a 50% CE. Why? Because we have 40% wasted charge. We are 10% shy with every 50%er of starting with 0% charge instead. And 0% charge can instead be something like a Black Grail that's drastically going to enhance our damage, especially due to the fact that Oberon has that NP damage boost, allowing it to be doubled up. So you have this weird sort of scenario where 30%ers and 50%ers start with the same CE, and 50%ers don't get more damage benefit because they can't leverage their charge for a better CE. You do have some units out here in the game right now, like Melisson, that can start from 0% charge even in the Buster system. Kucaster's another really good one that a lot of people don't realize. Ultimately, that's because they do even more than 50% charge. And this has been a particularly sore spot for me over time, as I have looked at my waifu here, Lartoria, who has 50% charge in her kit, but also refunds 20% charge at the back end of every NP, and also has a 20% append. So as you start thinking about her from a 3-turn perspective, she literally has 50% or 20% append, another 50% coming off cooldown, a turn 1 NP giving 20%, a turn 2 NP giving 20%. So right here, just based off this woman refunds 160%. She literally has 160% charge in her kit in order to allow her to function. Well, if you guys are aware, in order to 3-turn, you need 300% total charge, right? So if Lartoria has 160 and Koyanskaya herself has 50, and then another Koyanskaya has 50, and then an Oberon has 20 and 50, holy crap. Right here, just with the 50s, we're already over 300. So not only are we at 330% charge in that system, that should be enough to start from 0% charge. So why can't we? Well, because the 20% don't function well in a Koyan Skya system. Who they function best for is our 30% charger, our Maonobu scenario, because the 30% charger wastes nothing. Again, to put this one into perspective for you, it starts at 50, it has its append, and it charged itself 30 on turn 1, meaning the append wasn't wasted. On turn 2, you get the double Koyan Skya skills, and then they have enough to handle the NP, and then on turn 3, you get the charge skill back for another 30, and then you get Oberon's 20 and Oberon's 50. So each one is perfect, and there is no waste at all in this comp. The 30%ers function at peak efficiency here in this. But if we were to go back to, say, any other 50%er, let me maybe say take Ishtar, for instance, here. The 50%er starts with a 50% CE. They have an append, but what do? Well, they charge themselves 50%. So now that append was wasted, you didn't have any ability to leverage it. And maybe you could say, well, okay, we could maybe start with a 30% CE. They don't really have that capability too well. And that is a problem, I think, for 50%ers going forward. So then again, turn 2 there, you get both the Koyan Skya charges, they handle that wave, and then turn 3, you get the 50% back from the charging unit there, right? And then now you get Oberon's 50% and they're at full, but Oberon has another 20. That's also waste. You can't do anything with it. And because we're stuck with a plug suit rotating through here, you can't find a way to get 10% more charge for normal 50%ers. That's a problem. It means that they're stuck from the same starting point as our 30%ers. They can't leverage their charge for more damage. So potential solutions for that would be, one, a 10% CE that would exist out there with a lot more firepower on it than, say, aerial drive, right? But that probably becomes problematic and something they don't necessarily want to do. But I'm thinking a decent solution would be a 30% CE. There are some in the game, but they're typically not very good or very strong. There's nothing really that's more strong than, say, aerial drive. So to pass a test here to make it useful, it needs to be stronger than aerial drive's output. Otherwise, you're just going to start with aerial drive and then not give a crap about your append. So in order to not lose the effectiveness of the append, or even maybe the Oberon 20% here, you need at least 30% starting. And what you could do is you could make it so that it's 30% at MLB and maybe 20% not. That 20% would require an unlocked append, not a fully maxed one, but it would allow them, if it did more damage in terms of its stats than aerial drive, to allow the 50%er in the same number of button presses to leverage more damage than they would have starting from 50%. And as a result, to make up for that gap, that difference that 30%ers have, that they philosophically have 30% more. Now, I know that's not always the case with our 30%ers and our 50%ers. This game isn't a perfect balance across the board. It's just more of a trend that we've noticed. But historically, the 50%ers have been able to leverage their charge for more damage, and now in this system they can't. And part of that is just due to the overabundance of charge. Part of that is because they can't reach 0%, and the other part of that is because our charging supports here are blocked and can't break up their charge in good ways. If one of them had a 30% charge skill, maybe like, let's say Oberon had 30 and 40 instead, that would change the game entirely around that, because then it would work perfectly with their append for a turn 1 use. But again, then you'd still have some issues maybe with the 40%, I don't know, but it's an interesting thing to think about, the what if scenario. But now that I've talked for a long time about that, I can show you guys Lartoria here. And this is something that, again, I think is very interesting, is Lartoria is both the most exorbitant issue of waste here that I can think of, and also somebody that has the capability of escaping it right now. So remember, like I said, she refunds 20% on the back of her NP. She has an append as well. So we have 60% right here, plus Oberon's 20% himself. That all goes to waste. Lartoria wastes 80% charge in a setup like this, but somehow can't start from 0% due to the block 50 setup. It's because she can't ever leverage any of those 20% alongside, say, a 30% that causes her issues. So how do we do that? So now we have a nicer CE. This CE is Duke of Flames. It's actually really good. Unfortunately, I do not have MLB of it on JP. And why? Because MLB would actually outdamage Aerial Drive. This is 0% starting charge, 2 ranks of overcharge one time, and 20% NP damage, or if NLB goes to 25%. That 25% will scale better, but ultimately the big determinant is you need MLB in order to be able to level the craft essence up. If you have a level 100 Aerial Drive, your non-MLB level 20 Duke of Flames is not going to cut it. It's not going to outdamage it. So view this more as a proof of concept. This is Lartoria starting from 0% charge. Okay, so here we are in the node itself. Now you can see Lartoria's got our 20% append unlocked. So logically I can sit here and I can pop her skills, but it's altogether not going to be that good because, again, in order to get our mana burst back, because we're going to be using a charge skill here on turn 1, I basically have to pop this turn 1. So it's gonna be good if you had an annoying first wave. Again, I actually do here in this instance with the saber, but ultimately at the end of the day, that's not ideal. I'd rather have the skill on the second turn. But so I'm going to go ahead and use the Koyan charge skill there, and then the mana burst. And as you guys can see, I am now good. I have enough here to function, and we're going to go ahead and fire off that NP. And so now here we are in wave 2. Lartoria has handled the first wave, but look, what's this? She didn't refund 20%. Thanks to Duke of Flames having 2 ranks of overcharge, she got 40% back. And this is a really intriguing prospect. And this is why I say, again, I was working on this sort of stuff even before Koyan of the Dark came out with her overcharge gimmick. I think a lot of people caught wind that I was working on this, and it actually spawned some interesting theory crafting for other videos and stuff like that. Because again, you guys know I can only record every so often. But again, this is a really cool thing here. I actually did not need both ranks of overcharge. 1 rank would have been fine because it would have gotten me to 30%. And why does that matter? Well, you'll see here in a second as I rotate for Oberon and bring him in and use his 20% right there. Now she's at 60, and I can go ahead and use the other Koyan charge skill, and boom, there we go. I've got my first 2 skills back here and can basically pop them and go ham. So now as a result of this, as you guys can see, I have managed to start from 0% charge and be able to pull this off. And again, now as we come here into wave 3, I'm back to the 20%, but I don't care because I have 2 50% skills still remaining. So I can just go ahead and go ham and pop all my remaining stuff and basically not give a crap about what I'm doing here. Again, I can also actually just go ahead and card. I don't even need to NP because buster buffs are, dumb. But so now you guys can see this proof of concept that even someone like Lartoria can work from 0% starting charge if they make a adjustment to that. So she is somebody that has absolutely the capability here to work from 0% charge, but she basically couldn't ever leverage the charge in enough of a way, and literally just giving her overcharge tips the scales in her favor. So if down the line they did actually see fit to give her, say, an NP interlude or even a, I don't know, but giving her overcharge now tips the scales in her favor. So again, if they ever wanted to give her overcharge by virtue of, say, an NP interlude that she still lacks, or again, a skill upgrade that would allow her to start from 0% starting charge and make her really insane, because again, that interaction of Oberon with something like a Black Grail. Again, Oberon and Black Grail is almost doubling your damage output, if not more. So it's really a cool interaction to be able to reach. Sadly, I don't think they're ever going to allow the majority of 50%ers to be able to do something like this, but it's a cool concept at play. And also keep in mind, there are other people that can do stuff like this. Again, if I want to show you something really cool here, Lartoria is not the only one that works this way. Yeah, Artoria can do it now too. So here we are in turn 1 again, and I've got Duke of Flames on her. In Artoria's case, we do actually need Duke for something like this. We need 2 ranks of overcharge, and that has to do with how Artoria functions as a whole. Thankfully, I should be reasonably okay here given what's in the first wave, so I'm not really concerned about damage output or anything like that. But again, I do have a robust saber even on my JP account here. But so again, you guys can see I used the 1 Koyan Overcharge skill, and now I'm good. Okay, so now here at wave 2, you guys can see Artoria has NP'd and basically gotten 35% refund. This is why we need the 2 ranks. Only 1 rank would have gotten her to 27.5, and there is not a lot you can do with that. Just ask Karna about that. But again, this is a relatively nice setup here, so I'm going to go ahead and use the last remaining Koyan skill there on the left, not that I particularly need it. Then rotate for my Oberon, and looky chat, I can put in a 20% charge here and get him back to 50%, and then basically pop the other Koyan skill here, and again I am good to go. And now again, because of the 20% refund, this is the special thing that Artoria can do. Again, I can use her 30% skill here, and we're back at 50. So you're going to notice again that sort of relationship between 20 and 30 that's really helping us amp the damage here beyond natural means, and it's really a good thing and allowing her to function, but she still needs that overcharge. And in case you're wondering, I'm not showing you the NP because of damage. I'm not showing you the NP because that's been a thing that people have been DMCAing videos for, and I don't know why. But again, it is a really cool thing. I think that both the saber faces there can do that. You could do this similar sort of thing with Mordred. Again, there's a lot of other people I think that can benefit from overcharge, but that is ultimately a really cool aspect to this, and it doesn't stop there either. Who says we need to 3-turn with the same unit? Yeah, if you start out with Morgan Le Fay and a Lartoria with, again, Black Grail and then Oberon, I don't even need a plug suit anymore. I can go really ham with something like this. In fact, it's pretty hilarious to me what can be done in terms of, like, say the starting charge, for instance. Here you can actually start Morgan Le Fay with a 30% CE here, and she would work. This could be good for a lotto that maybe has a starting charge CE that maybe you can't leverage enough charge there normally, but this one would work as long as you didn't have MLB yet, or again, maybe you got MLB and you're just going to waste some of the charge. But it's really cool how this one functions as well. Okay, so I accidentally did an oopsie coming into the node and popped Lartoria's Mana Burst skill, but don't worry about that. I didn't need it anyways, probably. So this is actually going to, if anything, show now. Basically, the issue with a comp like this is it is restrictive in terms of me having a good Lartoria and a Black Grail, but it's possible that maybe you had a good CE starting from 0% charge that allowed her to amplify damage. But again, it's more of a proof of concept for what can be done. Just showing you right here, I can start out with Morgan's first skill and get her up to full. I can also basically do Oberon's first skill there and get 20% charge, and this is why that 20% charge was wasted on Morgan, so she in theory could have started from 30%. Then I can go ahead and pop Lartoria's other skills here, and then take the 10% from the Mystic code, and we're good. That's the only requirement here, is that you have 10% from the Mystic code. But then watch what happens here. Now, Morgan Le Fay has given us a rank of overcharge on all of our units. This actually can help the saber faces yet again, as they're the ones that gain even more charge from having that. So I can come in here turn 1 and just go ahead and fire the NP now since I'm already ready. And boom, just like that, I have now gotten 30% back. Why is the 30% significant? Cad, you only have 50%. No, I don't. I saved the 20% from Morgan there and used it here, and now we're back to full. So again, that 30% made all the difference right there. And basically I can just go ahead and launch whatever the heck I want onto Lartoria here. And actually, let's see if we get lucky and get a card. Ah, not quite. That one was probably due to the fact that I wasted that mana burst turn 1, but oh well, it still worked. So again, it's an interesting proof of concept right there, just to show you what's possible, that I'm actually able to do a 2 DPS setup with the Koyan / Oberon system here and make it work. Now you might be thinking, but Cad, what about Koyami? What about Koyan of the Dark? Well, we have this setup, and this setup is actually really mundane. You don't even need my Lartoria here. You could just back-to-back NP with each of them having a 50% CE. But why do that? That's too easy. That's exactly what you guys are expecting me to do. You see, instead what I'm going to end up doing is I'm instead going to end up handling wave 1 with a Koyan of the Dark. And that may make perfect sense to a lot of you, but do understand that Koyan of the Dark might struggle in terms of damage output. So maybe now instead we need somebody else to handle the subsequent waves. Well, in comes this Lartoria here as a proof of concept. Now, here's something cool that we can do though. Koyan of the Dark has a skill that increases overcharge 2 times. This is how she's going to differentiate herself from her lighter counterpart. Her lighter counterpart reduces cooldowns by 2. She instead increases overcharge by 2 ranks. That is going to be useful to certain units, but not to everybody. Because again, overcharge could impact damage, it could impact refund, like in Lartoria's case, but in some cases this is going to be totally worthless to you depending on who the unit is. So this is what's going to make her a little bit more niche, but still a very fun and interesting unit to use. So instead, let's go ahead and use both of the Koyan of the Dark overcharges on Lartoria and see what happens here. Now again, just to show this one off, your overcharge bar does change the way that the NP bar looks. So this is what rank 5 overcharge, 500% overcharge looks like, and you guys don't often get to see it. But hilariously enough, the effect of it is we end up getting 60% refund here, and that's veritably insane. So as I go ahead and use this again, I could have used Koyami's NP here on the other end, but I also don't have to. I could just go with my way more devoted DPS here and let them do the work now with the Black Grail on. And again, you guys can see it's actually pretty dumb. It's actually going to do a whole lot of damage. So without Koyan of the Light, without Oberon as well, we have managed to form a 3-turn Buster comp, just due to this sort of hybrid support that Koyami does. She gives the 30% charge, she handles maybe a wave herself. You just needed her append unlocked and she was able to work with a 50% CE. Similarly, Lartoria, due to the insane function of overcharge with her, refunded 60% back. So she was able to, on turn 1, start with 20%, charge herself 50, and then get the overflow from the Koyami charge to allow her to be ready on turn 2. And then she basically comes back with the 60% on turn 2, gets the overflow from the other Koyami there at another 30%, and just took 10% from the Mystic Code to finish it off. It worked perfectly, and she was able to handle 2 waves like that. So don't get stuck thinking you guys need to have 1 DPS handling all 3 waves. Don't get stuck thinking your supports are only supports. They can also be your damage dealers. And we see that with the interaction of double Oberon, double Koyan of the Darkness here. There's a lot going on that allows people to charge themselves up. Even Koyan of the Light herself is a very good AoE assassin in the right circumstances. So again, let this open your mind a little bit more and think a little bit more broadly as to how these units can be used and utilized, and hope that again they maybe address that issue between the 30 and the 50% chargers in this system to allow the 50%ers to leverage it for a little bit more damage. And next up, in a little bit of an addendum here, we have a very recent addition to the possibilities here with Overcharge. Reines just recently got her buff on JP that gives her NP a rank of Overcharge, so now, yeah, yet again, Black Grail looping actually ends up being possible. Now, this is again not something that is idyllic. We're not going to be wanting to use Reines' NP naturally while farming, because that's just going to slow down the comp and make something like this really just undesirable. But at the end of the day, it's a decent proof of concept for what we can do here. Let's go ahead and jump right in and show you guys how it's going to work. So now that we're in the node, you guys can see, again, it's the standard Koyan Skya setup here. We can go ahead and put both their buster ups on Lartoria. I can also go ahead and pop at least one of her skills there. We can pop, again, the charge skill here. It is probably ideal. You can also start this with Reines in the front of the party, but it will change things up a little bit as to sort of the order of operations. But again, it's still easily doable. And actually, because I know I'm going to end up using one of the Koyan Skya charge skills here, I am going to basically go ahead and pop Lartoria's mana burst skill so that I can get it back again. So this could be good for a opportune moment where maybe the opening and ending waves are AoE, but maybe the middle wave is a single target, and so that might be something that we would change for this. But again, this should be really easily doable, and you guys are well familiar at this point as to the amount of damage this is going to do. And now here on the back end, you can see, again, that's just wave 1 damage there. That's the difference a Black Grail will make. I don't even have MLB on my JP, and it already does some pretty insane numbers here. So let's go ahead and rotate out for Reines. And again, you guys are going to see as I'm basically going to go ahead and use 30% of her charge here in order to get Lartoria back to 50% with the 20% refund. Go ahead and use the other Koyan Skya charge skill here. Go ahead and use her attack up again. And you can see we could do the mana burst again, but obviously we don't want to. So we'll go ahead and, oh, actually, yes, make sure that you use Reines' NP first here, then Lartoria's, because that's how you're going to get the rank of Overcharge. And there it is. Now you can see with that rank of Overcharge, we actually ended up getting back to 40% there with Lartoria. That was actually really nice. She did very good in terms of refunding and damage output. And part of that is due to Reines putting her NP before. If you'll remember, she functions a little bit like Waver, where she has the defense down. So you're going to get a lot more damage out of that. That could be nice for, again, if you were trying to 3-turn with an AoE, but maybe that middle wave there had a high amount of health. But obviously, in order to do that, I had to throw a K-scope on Reines, so that's not necessarily ideal. And again, you can see I am still basically just ahead by 10% here as I get Reines' last charge skill off. But again, this will easily slaughter this final wave. And so even against one enemy, even without Oberon there, we did 452k. Again, a lot of that is just due to the power of the single Black Grail in my case, and just how much that's going to absolutely scale your damage output. So again, this won't be super useful as far as comps go, but just to show you guys a little bit of what Overcharge again here can do, this is pretty nice. But again, I hope you like this. I hope this was thought-provoking for you, and I will see you guys for the next one. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about this. Maybe there's something I missed in terms of the Koyami comp there at the end. But again, I hope to see you guys for the next one.